In every game, there's bound to be Pokemon you never used before, whether it's because it evolves towards the end of the game, at the end of the game, or even worse, you can't use it until you're almost done with the game. And it'd be the coolest ones too, but with all that training you have to do and the game almost being over, in the end, I just don't want to use them. Anyways, there's a bunch of reasons for not using Pokemon, and today's the day I use Pokemon I never used before in Pokemon Ultra Sun. After getting attacked by a Pokemon, we can get our first member being Rowlet that we name Carrot. There's really not a reason for not choosing it besides the fact that I played Pokemon Sun once and I picked Litten instead. I think Rowlet's going to be our best Pokemon as there's a good chunk of island trials that's going to be great in, especially for the grand trials. Other than that, I never really used a grass ghost type, so I think it's going to be really fun to use, but I am not ready for the day when it turns into that. It has a modest nature, which is really good as special attack is up and base attack is down. And I mean, it's a bird, so I'm assuming it has some good special attacking moves. So after a quick search, I was dead wrong. What do you mean it only has one special attacking move? My head hurts already. This is gonna be rough. I would restart, but it's gonna take forever. We meet this girl named Lily after saving her Pokemon from a group of Spearows and falling off a bridge. We don't know much about this purple cotton ball besides its name being Nebby and that Lily's trying to hide it from everyone. But other than that, we meet a bunch of people and also fight our rival How. After beating him up, we can finally get started. On Route 1, we can get our next member being Grubbin that we name Red Onion. The reason why I never used one before was simply because it evolved too late, for me anyway. I don't know why, I just don't like the fact that by the end of the story, it's just now evolving, but I heard you can get it a bit sooner in the Ultra games, so that's why I'm using it. Now, I don't think it's going to be that useful until it fully evolves, but I feel like it's definitely going to have some moments before it does. She has a modest nature, which is actually what we wanted, but Grubbin is really weird as its first two evolutions have higher base attack, even if we have a modest nature. But it does switch over once it fully evolves, so we're pretty much going to have a rough time as both of our Pokemon are not going to be at their best. This isn't looking good, especially since this is what we're going to be using for a bit. And it didn't get any better as we couldn't do anything else until we beat this teacher, and of course she had a fire type destroying our team. So after training a little bit and giving some items to our Pokemon with a lot of luck, 9 attempts, we get this run. They go first using Ember while we used Mudslap, lowering their accuracy. Mudslap was working too well as they kept missing and we just kept going. We eventually used Bite, getting them the red HP before going down, so next turn Carrot comes right in and knocks them out with a peck. Honestly, I doubt we could have won if we didn't hit all those mud slaps because Litten was hitting way too hard and Carrot just doesn't have enough power. It also looks like Red Onion is having her moment, but who knows, she might just carry us for a bit. Now that we're done with that, we run into some Team Skull Grunts, but they're not important right now, so anyway, we face Alima the trial captain, but it was super easy as we just use Work Up and then Peck to win. With that, we could do our island trial, and they usually make us do some type of challenge before we face the Totem Pokemon, and it usually consists of facing Pokemon, so if we happen to overlevel as we're in the trial, I'll still be able to use them. With that, we face our first Totem Pokemon, Gumshoos, who raises his defense. We send out Red Onion and our whole goal is to lower Gumshoos' accuracy as much as possible. We were able to do it about 5 times, even with Yongoos coming out and attacking us. Before Red Onion went down, Quick Claw activated and we were able to use a Mud Slap on Yongoos, so that was really cool. After that, we send out Carrot and use Work Up 3 times, and once we use Razor Leaf, we knock out Yongoos, and then after another one, Gumshoos goes down. I thought for sure we were gonna have a rough time, but nothing a little Mud Slap can't fix. But I will say, I'm pretty worried how these next fights are gonna go with Carrot, as if we don't use Work Up, we're gonna have a rough time beating anyone. It turns out we can catch our next member here at the Verdant Cavern, being Diglett that we named Green Beans. The reason why I never used one before is simply design wise. I hated it at first. Like, I can't believe they just slapped some hair on it and said boom, new Pokemon. And I could care less, but now what I do care about is its cool ability being Tangling Hair. So if we get hit physically, our opponent's speed will go down. Now, I really didn't pick Green Beans for any other reason than saying, you know what, maybe its hair isn't that bad. But having Tangling Hair as an ability sounds really useful, so I think it's going to turn out to be one of our best Pokemon, as I'm pretty sure all of our Pokemon are pretty slow. Other than that, we have some more story to do, like helping Lily with Nebby as it ran away. We also run into these guys named Dulce and Zosie who seem to know a bit about Nebby, but I wasn't paying attention. There's not much else to do as there's only one trial on Melee Island, so with that we can face the Kahuna, Hala. We go first and use Magnitude 10, but it did less than half while they use Revenge to one-shot us. We sent out Carrot and it was a wrap. After using a couple workups and then spamming Peck, we win the fight. There was a close call as we were taking a bit of damage from each Pokemon, and Crabrawler being faster, meaning they always had a chance to knock us out, but they weren't doing much, so it all worked out. But yeah, I was right about Carrot. Without workup, we're gonna have a hard time, even with Pokemon we are supposed to be super strong against. With that, Carrot evolves into Dartrix, and what happened to him? Give me back my Rowlet. Who is this? Our next stop is Akala Island, and we get there by man-time surfing, and I don't care what anyone says, this was really fun to do. But yeah, not much else happens besides meeting new people, and we did run into this guy named Gladion, and he's a part of Team Skull. We face him, and I thought we were gonna have a hard time facing his type Null, but it wasn't too bad, and we win. With that, we can do our next trial and face Araquanid, and he raises his speed. With Green Beans, we use Mud Slap before going down to a bubble. Araquanid calls out Jupiter while we send out Red Onion. Next turn, they miss Bubble while we use Spark, but he ate some berry, preventing Spark from doing much damage. Next turn, he misses again while we use Spark, and this time we get the paralysis. But Jupiter finally attacks and lands a Bubble, doing half. Next turn, we use Acrobatics before going down to another Bubble. We send out Carrot and use Workup while they used Aurora Beam, doing massive damage, and Jupiter using Bubble. Next turn, we use Peck to finish off Araquanid, while Jupiter lands another Bubble, but it wasn't enough, and next turn, we use Peck to one-shot him, winning the fight, and that caught me off guard. I didn't know that it could use Aurora Beam, and not only that, Carrot actually lived it considering we are extremely weak to ice, so its special attack must suck. Though it still did a lot of damage, and now I'm glad I decided not to send out Carrot first. And even though Green Beans was only there for one turn, that Mud Slap helped a lot as they missed multiple times. And as for Red Onion, for some reason, I thought it could do more damage. Now that we beat in the island trial, we can get our next Pokemon in the Brooklet Hill, being Wishy-Washy, that we named Asparagus. The reason why I never used one before was, as dumb as it sounds, I thought it would be pretty annoying to see it transform every time. But then again, I was using a 2DS to play this game, so imagine facing a Totem Pokemon or just a random SOS battle that would take forever to do, cause each time I didn't move, it took 7 seconds after clicking the move for it to do something, so I was not having a good time as is. I will say, I think Asparagus might be our best Pokemon. Its stats once it transforms is insane. Everything is boosted besides speed being terrible, but who cares about that if it looks like we're going to be able to take a bunch of hits and hit hard, though its moveset is a bit lacking. And once we caught Asparagus, Red Onion evolved into Charjabug. After that, not much else happens. We meet this lady named Hapu, head to this battle dome which I was not ready for, and then did some training near our next trial. Now, there was a problem. For some reason, I decided not to search up how Wishy-Washy transforms, so I was leveling up wondering when or how does it transform, and I gave up, so I just decided it'll be alright, let's just face our next trial. So after getting absolutely whooped, I finally decided to search it up, and it turns out we weren't even at the right level. And you know what? Fair enough. I wasn't even at the level cap, but yeah, that's embarrassing. With that, it's rematch time. They go first using Brick Break, doing about half while we use Brine, taking them down on orange HP, and Salazzle pops up. Next turn, Marowak uses Detect while Salazzle uses Poison Gas, and luckily for us, we attack Salazzle instead, one-shotting her as we take some damage from Poison. But that's when our Berry activates, healing us up a bit, and next turn they use Brick Break, but we live with 9 HP and use Brine to win the fight. And Marowak was doing crazy amount of damage, but Asparagus straight soloed this fight. I will say we got pretty lucky going for Salazzle when we did, as if we didn't, that would have probably costed us the whole match, as once Asparagus goes down, the rest of our Pokemon are slower and we are super weak to fire, so that could have ended terribly. Other than that, I thought we would be able to take more hits with Asparagus, but I guess not. With that, we can immediately head to Mallow's trial, and this by far was the worst Totem Pokemon ever. I lost so many times, it was ridiculous. Lurantis Comfey combo was the worst. Comfey would spam Flower Shield, raising Lurantis' defense, and use Floral Healing. Pair that up with Lurantis always healing itself up, and she's back at full HP, takes no damage, and hits hard. It doesn't help that 2 of our Pokemon don't stand a chance, and the other 2 that can do something can't keep up with all the healing and defense boost, even with held items that boost their flying and bug type moves. So after losing some more and coming so close to winning at times, I think the problem is that we just don't have enough power. But already being at the level cap made it really hard to try an EV train, so there's only one thing to do: Mantine Surf. So this is a really good way to get BP points that we can trade for proteins and calciums and whatnot. So after doing that for a bit, we raised our stats, and now I'll be the first to admit, in the long run, this was a terrible idea, as we had to raise some stats that are not ideal for our Pokemon, but there wasn't much else I can do, so let's hope it doesn't bite us in the butt later. With that, we get this run. Lurantis goes first using X-Scissor while we use Work Up. Kelkion comes out, and next turn she uses X-Scissor again while we use Pluck, doing a little more than half, while Kelkion sets up a Sunny Day. After that, Lurantis heals while we use another Pluck, and this time Kelkion uses Dizzy Punch, taking us pretty low. Next turn she uses X-Scissor again, and we live with 1 HP and use Pluck to knock her out, but we also go down to a Dizzy Punch. After that, we send out Red Onion and use Acrobatics that change Kelkion's type to Flying, and then use Spark to knock her out. That was super tough. The amount of times I tried waiting for Focus Band to activate, or choosing who goes first, or what I can land before going down was insane. I spent way too much time here. I just wish that I would have thought about EV training sooner. I will say Carrot lost some EV points to defense, but it's because we did that we were able to beat Lurantis before it could heal. I will say I was not liking Carrot during this fight just because his attack was really holding it back, because we had to set up more than one workup or it was pointless. But after getting some EVs, it's finally making a comeback. Now that we beat in the trial, we can finally catch our next Pokemon in the Lush Jungle, being Passimian, that we named Celery. The reason why I never used one before was simply because I didn't know this was a Pokemon until I watched the anime not too long ago. And even then, it just kinda popped up. But I guess you could say I just haven't gotten to it yet, as from Gen 7 and up, I haven't really used any of the new Pokemon that were introduced. So some of these are just simply because I just never played the game again. Anyways, I think we finally have a Pokemon that can do a bunch of damage, and the moves that it can learn isn't that bad, possibly helping us if one of our Pokemon go down and we need another Pokemon with a super effective move to help us out. Its speed isn't the best either, but let's hope it can at least be faster than some Pokemon, cause like I said, all of our Pokemon are pretty slow. Once we leave, the professor asks us to go to Hiya City, where we meet Professor Burnett and talk about Ultra Wormholes and how dangerous Pokemon could come out of them. Lily also tells us that she wants to return Nebby back home, so she's going to be going to each ruin to learn more about Nebby. Now that we've been all the island trials, we can face our next Kahuna, Olivia. But of course, it's never that easy, as we run into this guy named Faba, who isn't that important, and this lady named Plumera. But once we got that out of the way, we can face the Kahuna, Olivia. We used Smackdown to take out Anorith, but we did get hit with 2 Metal Claws as they were faster. Her next Pokemon is Lileep, and we switch into Red Onion while they use Giga Drain, not doing much. Next turn, we use Bug Bite while they use Ancient Power, doing a little more than half. Next turn, we use Bug Bite again while they use Brine for some reason, so with another Bug Bite, we knock them out. She sends out Lycanroc and uses Continental Crush on Red Onion to knock us out. We sent out Asparagus, but we got destroyed as they used Bite, flinching us, and since they're faster, they use Rock Tomb to knock us out. We sent out Celery and we were having the same problem. They were getting flinches and there was nothing we could do about it. But once they finally didn't get it, we used Brick Break to knock them out. And I was not expecting that. As soon as we got flinched, we almost lost the match. But other than that, again, I thought Asparagus would be able to take more hits, but I think it's because its HP isn't that good. It's probably a good idea to EV train our Pokemon now, but it's a bit complicated in this game, as when we searched it up, lots of people said different things, like it takes 14 up to 32 battles to fully max out their EVs, but I didn't know what to believe, so I just waited a bit. With that, we got some more story to do, so let's speedrun this. With how we head to the Aether Paradise, meet this lady named Lusamine, fight the jellyfish that came out of an Ultra Wormhole. Dulce and Zosie show up and talk about the lore, but all we need to know is that there's a super scary and strong Pokemon called Necrozma roaming around in the Ultra space, and with Lusamine they're gonna try and beat it. So since that has nothing to do with us, we leave. On Ula Ula Island, we face Hao, and I was not expecting to get whooped this badly. Every time I switched out a Pokemon, it backfired immediately, getting hit with a Z move or them having more turns to attack, so they take us down before we are able to land more than one move. And once Raichu comes out, it was a wrap, completely wiping the rest of our team with ease. Yikes, that was rough, but it also turns out there's no rematch, so we just take the L. With that, we head to Mount Hakulani where we can face our next Totem Pokemon, Togedemaru, who sharply raises his defense. With Green Beans, we try to use Thief, but they use Spiky Shield protecting themselves while we take some damage. He calls out Skarmory, and next turn we use Thief again, and this time we steal his berry while he uses Iron Head. We lower his speed and also eat the berry, healing us up quite a bit before Skarmory sets up a Tailwind. Next turn, they set up another Spiky Shield while Skarmory uses Steel Wing, doing a good amount of damage, but also lowering their speed while Magnitude doesn't land. Next turn, he uses Iron Head again, but we live with 8 HP and land a Magnitude 6, not doing much, while Skarmory sets up a Stealth Rock. Since Togedemaru had hit us so many times, we dropped its speed just enough where we go first, and using Magnitude 6 that turned into a crit, completely knocking out Togedemaru. After that, Skarmory uses a Steel Wing to knock us out, so we send out Red Onion and use Spark until it finally goes down. Honestly, what a surprise. It was going so bad getting hit with Spiky Shield, Iron Head, and Steel Wing before we even got one hit in. And even when we did, it didn't do much at all. But taking that Citrus Berry and having the ability Tangling Hair is a lifesaver. As they just kept attacking, they got slower, and with a little luck from Skarmory not attacking us, even though we were at 7 HP and us landing a crit was nuts. Green Beans might be the luckiest Doug trio ever. With that, we head to Melee Garden where we run into the leader of Team Skull being Guzma, who's mad at everything. So just like that, we fight, and yeah, it wasn't looking good at first as we get hit with First Impression, almost taking us out, while we use Work Up. Next turn, we land a Pluck, but it did a little less than half, so next turn they use Razor Shell to knock us out. With Celery, we use Aerial Ace that did enough to where it switched into Masquerain, but we get taken out with one Air Slash. We send out Asparagus and manage to land one Tearful Look, lowering their special and base attack before going down to 2 Bug Buzzes. After that, we send out Green Beans and get hit with Bug Buzz, but it didn't do much, and we use Rock Tomb, almost knocking them out. But we did lower their speed, so next turn we go first using another Rock Tomb to knock them out. Golisopod comes back out and we use Rock Tomb, but it wasn't enough and we go down to a Razor Shell. So with Red Onion, we use Spark to finish him off, winning the fight, and that's crazy. His Masquerain was a straight demon. If we didn't land that Tearful Look when we did, I'm pretty sure we would have lost, and I don't know if it's just me, or is this game just really hard. After the fight, Guzma said that he'll beat us up one of these days and leaves. On Route 12, Carrot evolved into a Decidueye and Red Onion evolved into a Vikavolt. And it's about time, and I've been waiting since we caught Red Onion. Honestly, I think I'm more excited about how it looks more than anything. On Route 15, we head to this house where we run into this lady named Acerola, and she tells us that she's the trial captain. So as we leave, this Team Skull Grunt found Lily's bag suspicious and tries to steal it, but after we beat him up, we can face our next Totem Pokemon, Mimikyu, and she raises all of her stats. She goes first using Play Rough as we use Thunderbolt, breaking her disguise, so we do no damage. After calling Banette, she uses Play Rough again and we live with 11 HP and Banette uses Curse. But it doesn't work just yet, so we use Thunderbolt before going down. We send out Green Beans and she uses Shadow Claw doing massive damage, but we also lower their speed and we use Rock Tomb lowering their speed again. Next turn, we use Rock Tomb on Banette before going down to a Feint Attack and his speed went down by 2. We send out Carrot and use Spirit Shackle on Mimikyu and then Banette to win the fight. Our best Pokemon so far has to be Green Beans. It's just always coming in clutch, making other Pokemon slower and doing solid damage, giving the rest of our team a chance because like I said before, and I'll say it again, our team is so slow. Also, I forgot about Mimikyu's abilities, so Red Onion did more than enough, even being able to land a Thunderbolt doing some damage, because even though Carrot is super effective, I doubt it would have been able to one-shot them. It turns out we got more story to do, so let's speedrun this. We fight Team Skull, find out they stole one of these kids' Pokemon, go to their home base, fight way too many grunts, beat up Guzma with no problem, talk to this dude named Nanu, return this kid's Pokemon, and then find out Lily got taken by the people we just beat. Great. It also doesn't help that Gladion came in wanting to fight because he couldn't protect Lily or Nebby. But he wasn't that hard either. Red Onion takes out Golbat and Zoroark, and Asparagus takes out Type Null. He calms down and apologizes and told us that Nebby would bring disaster if in the wrong hands. And that's crazy because I don't remember him saying that at all. But also, how does he know Lily and Nebby? But anyways, we have to follow him somewhere, but before we do, the guy that we met earlier named Nanu turned out to be the Kahuna. He asked us if we were ready, and let's see here, no. We do some EV training, and I'm saying that loosely because I didn't know what to believe. But also, some of my Pokemon weren't getting any EVs after 11 battles or so I'm assuming I either maxed it out or just ran out. So yeah, my team is not fully trained, I don't think. But now we can face Nanu. He sends out Sableye and uses Fake Out, and then they use 2 Shadow Balls to knock us out. We send out Red Onion and use Thunderbolt, and they go down. His next Pokemon is Persian and they use Fake Out. So next turn they use Power Gem doing massive damage while we use Egg Scissor not doing much. So next turn we go down. We send out Celery and like a dummy we use Bulk Up while they use a Z move taking us down to 6 HP. Next turn we knock them out. His last Pokemon is Krokorok, but they're faster and use Earthquake to knock us out, so we send out Asparagus and use Brime to win the fight. And yikes, I should have taken a break after doing all that Mantine surfing and EV training because I was making dumb mistakes left and right. Lesson learned. With that, we make our way to the Aether Paradise and find out that Lusamine and Guzma teamed up. When did that happen? We also find out that Gladion lost to Guzma and that Lusamine is his mother. Crazy. Anyways, it's our turn to face them, and this is how it went. They go first using Sucker Punch, but it didn't work because we used Work Up instead. So assuming that's all he was gonna do, we just kept using Work Up until he didn't have any Sucker Punches left. After that, we used Plug, but it somehow wasn't enough, and we only get them the orange HP, causing Emergency Exit to activate, so they switch into Pinsir, and we get hit with a Throat Chop, but we live with 33 HP and use Plug to one-shot him. His next Pokemon is Masquerain, and we go down to an Air Slash. We send out Green Beans and use Rock Slide to take out Masquerain and Golisopod. When Vikavolt came out, we used Rock Slide, but we didn't get the flinch and we go down to a crit Energy Ball. So we send out Celery, and with a Rock Slide that does flinch, we do it again to knock them out. And that went so smooth, I'm honestly surprised. Maybe I should have EV trained sooner because Green Beans was going crazy. With that, we meet Lusamine again and find out that Lily is also her child. Crazy. They're trying to stop her from opening a wormhole using Nebby, but she isn't listening and we battle. And of course, I got the wrong Pokemon out, so we switch into Green Beans and take a hit from Moonblast doing massive damage. Next turn, we use Iron Head that also gets the flinch, so next turn, we use another one to knock them out. Her next Pokemon is Milotic, so we switch into Asparagus and use 2 Tearful Looks before switching into Red Onion and taking a hit from Hydro Pump. Next turn, we outlive another Hydro Pump and use Thunderbolt, but it wasn't enough and we only get them to orange HP. I thought we were going down, but for some reason they used Flail instead, so we live with 5 HP, so with another Thunderbolt, we knock them out. Her next Pokemon is Lopunny, and with a Dizzy Punch we go down. We send out Celery, but since they're faster, they use Dizzy Punch that also crits doing massive damage. But it works out as we use Close Combat to one-shot them. Her next Pokemon is Beware, and we use another Close Combat before going down to a Zen Headbutt. We switch into Asparagus and get hit with Dual Chop that leaves us with 4 HP, while we use Brime. And since Beware's health wasn't less than half, it doesn't do as much damage, and we turn back to normal. But out of nowhere, Quick Claw activates and uses Brine to knock them out. Nah, I'm just kidding. Since we're in small form, we have like no attack, so we get taken out with another Dual Chop. Nice effort though. We send out Carrot, and with a Plug we finish her off. Her last Pokemon is Lilligant, and they use Teeter Dance, confusing us, but Carrot wasn't having any of it and used 3 Plugs to knock them out, winning the fight. And honestly, I'm pretty happy at how that fight went. I mean, we did get unlucky at times, but we got just as lucky. Story-wise, Lusamine said that she's still opening the wormhole, but to trust her. She said that she isn't going alone and takes Guzma and then disappears. So now we gotta find another way to get through an ultra wormhole, so we gotta find this flute that lets us do that, but that's for later. With that, we head to Pony Island, but still not having our final member, I decided it's about time we finally do. Our last member was supposed to be this rock, but I didn't want it anymore, so I never grabbed it. But you know what, I never use ice types on my team, so we backtrack to Tabu Village and head to Mount Lanakila, and in this little patch of grass, we can get a Vulpix that we name Limabean. And after learning Ice Beam, we evolve her into a Ninetales. Now, usually I would talk about why I never used one before, but honestly, it was my fault since I decided to get it so late. But to be fair, I'm pretty sure it's late into the story anyway, but yeah. EV training, getting her to the right level, is just such a hassle this late in the game. Since at this point, I just want to go through the story. But yeah, I think she's going to be pretty normal, like she's going to be okay during fights and have her moments in important battles, but nothing crazy. But oh man, was I wrong. Going back to Pony Island, we find out there's no Kahuna here, and with Hapu, we head to the Ruins of Hope. Oh wait, never mind, we got a Kahuna now. She tells us some lore, and it turns out we're supposed to go somewhere called Executor Island to get that flute that we're gonna need for later. Once we reach the ancient pony path, we run into Team Skull again, but they just want Guzma back, so we decided to help them out. We move on and head to the vast Pony Island where we meet Hapu again and also Dulce and Zosie. They ask us to help fight Necrozma and we agree. With that, we finally explore the canyon where we find another trial and face our next totem Pokemon, Komao, who raises all of his stats. He goes first using Poison Jab that leaves us with 13 HP, but Limabeans was not playing games, using a crit Ice Beam taking him down to red HP. He calls out Scissor and uses Bullet Punch to knock us out. We send out Carrot and he goes first using a Dragon Claw doing about half while we use Shadow Ball knocking him out. Scissor also sets up a light screen. Next turn we use Peck before going down to a pursuit, so we send out Green Beans and use 2 Earthquakes to knock out Scissor. That was insane. It's Limabean's first battle and immediately hits a crit Ice Beam. That's nuts. I thought we were going to lose once we got hit with that Poison Jab, but Limabeans had other plans. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about how we were supposed to fight Komao to begin with before we got Limabeans, but it's a good thing we did. With that, we got some more story to do, so we head to the Altar of the Sun, and with Lily we play the flutes. We watch Nebby turn into a lion called Solgaleo, watch Lusamine and Guzma fall from the sky as they get beat up by Necrozma, where Necrozma beats up Solgaleo and merges with it, and now we gotta fight him, and as soon as we beat him up, he goes into an ultra wormhole, turning the sky black, and now with Dulce and Zosie's help, we travel through space, and after having a little bit of technical difficulties, we find a shiny Helioptile. How cool is that? Anyways, we make it to the Ultra Megalopolis, and I think that's how you say it, where we fight Necrozma again, but in its true form, and holy cow. It completely wipes out our whole team with one move, not standing a chance. Yeah, there's no way I'm beating this by normal means. Luckily for me, I'm shameless. It's rematch time. We send out Asparagus and get hit with Photon Geyser, but we live with 1 HP as we had given Asparagus a Focus Sash. We use Endeavor, bringing him down to 1 HP, so after getting hit with another Geyser, we send out Green Beans and use Sucker Punch to go first, knocking him out. And with that, Solgaleo turns back to normal and we saved the day. Now that we're done here, we can finally do our last trial, but it turned out that we fight Mina, the trial captain, instead, and this is how it went. Her first Pokemon is Mawile that had the ability Intimidate, lowering our attack, so we used 2 Earthquakes to knock her out. Her next Pokemon is Granbull, and again, they lowered our attack, so when we use Iron Head, it didn't do much and we go down to an Earthquake. We sent out Red Onion, but I didn't realize that we were slower and take a mean blow by Stone Edge, and we barely live, and with a Thunderbolt we knock him out. Her last Pokemon is Rabombi, and they use a Pollen Puff to knock us out. We send out Carrot and we go back and forth with Pollen Puff and Pluck, and we got super lucky as we live with 5 HP, and with a Pluck we knock her out, winning the fight. But it turns out there's more to the trial than just beating her, and we actually have to face all the other trial captains. Well, I was not expecting that, so with that we get started, and luckily for us, most of them were super easy, but I will say Mallow was giving us some trouble. Once she put our Pokemon to sleep, we were having a rough time, but once we send out Red Onion, we win the fight. It also turns out we don't actually have to fight all of them, as Lana just gives it to us after beating Mallow, and Nanu giving us Acerolas cause he can't be bothered. It also looks like Guzma had a change of heart, so that's nice. With that, we head back to Mina's trial, where we face our last totem Pokemon, Rabombi, that sharply raises its stats. And holy cow, it was terrible. Once she sent out Pelipper, it felt like they had a counter to every single one of our Pokemon, or it just did a massive amount of damage. As we go down in like 3 minutes, it was nuts. After losing 3 more times and teaching one of our Pokemon a new move, we get this attempt. They go first using Quiver Dance while we use Flash Cannon that turned into a crit doing massive damage. She calls out Blissey, so next turn Blissey uses Helping Hand and then Rabombi using Bug Buzz, we get one shot. We send out Green Beans and they're faster and they use Bug Buzz, taking us down to 13 HP, but that's where they messed up as we land an Iron Head to knock out Rabombi. Blissey uses Heal Pulse, but it didn't work, so next turn we use Earthquake to one-shot Blissey, winning the fight. And that was insane. They made this game really hard. Not only is each of her stats boosted by 2, the fact that it can do Quiver Dance raising multiple stats is crazy work. Red Onion and Green Beans are working miracles. They're officially my best Pokemon, hands down. Once we leave, we meet Hapu and she tells us that we can now take our grand trial, so we do. We start off with Carrot and use Shadow Ball, but it wasn't enough and they set up a Stealth Rock. Next turn she heals while we use another Shadow Ball, but this time we knock her out. Her next Pokemon is Mudsdale and we use Energy Ball, leaving them on red HP, and they use Payback, leaving us with 4 HP. They took it literally. But it's okay, cause next turn with another Energy Ball we knock them out. Her next Pokemon is Flygon and we switch into Lima Beans and use Ice Beam to one-shot them. Her last Pokemon is Gastrodon and we tried using Ice Beam to knock her out, but we get hit with a crit Muddy Water, so after using another Ice Beam we go down. We send out Carrot and we go down cause I totally forgot about Stealth Rock, so we send out Celery and with a close combat we win. With that, we can make our way to the Pokemon League, but before we do, we fight Gladion one last time, and you best believe he didn't stand a chance. Crobat goes down to a Thunderbolt, Zoroark goes down to a close combat, Silvally goes down to a Toxic Scald Hail combo, and Lucario goes down after we use Endeavor and Hail finishing him off. Oh, it's too easy. Honestly, I thought he would be a lot harder, but he ended up being easier than how. With that, we can face our first Elite Four member, Kahili. They go first using Brave Bird, doing massive damage while we use Thunderbolt to knock them out. Her next Pokemon is Mandibuzz and they go first again using Brave Bird, but not doing nearly as much. We live and use Thunderbolt to leave them at red HP before going down to another Brave Bird. We send out Lima Bean and using Dazzling Gleam we take out Mandibuzz and Hawlucha, and with an Ice Beam we take out Toucannon. Her last Pokemon is Oricorio and we use Extra Sensory, but it doesn't do much, so next turn we go down to a Revelation Dance. So we send out Asparagus and using Scald we win the fight, and overall it went pretty well, and even though we raised Red Onion's speed the best we can, we couldn't save it. Have you seen its speed? Anyways, it is a powerhouse even if the move isn't super effective. But I will say not being able to learn special attacking moves until the Elite Four is a crime. And Lima Beans was such a good choice to be our last Pokemon. I didn't realize how broken it was in this game until now, so it's crazy to have such a strong Pokemon in one of these runs because usually I would have used them already. Our next Elite Four member is Acerola, and with 2 Night Slashes we knock out Banette. Her next Pokemon is Palossand and we use 2 Night Slashes before going down to an Earth Power. We send out Carrot and use Shadow Ball to finish off Palossand, and her next Pokemon is Frostlass. They used Confuse Ray, but it didn't work as we land Shadow Ball to one-shot them. Her next Pokemon is Delmise, and we use Shadow Ball as they do the same, but next turn they heal, so we use another Shadow Ball, but again it wasn't enough, so knowing that we're gonna heal again, we switch into Lima Beans and use Ice Beam, and again we were so close, but it wasn't enough and they used Slam. Next turn with another Ice Beam, we knock them out. Her last Pokemon is Drifblim, and with Dazzling Gleam, we finish them off. And our Pokemon were straight demons to her team. Overall, I thought Carrot was gonna carry us through the whole game, but that was just not the case. His nature was his downfall, but I'd be lying if I said he didn't have his moments to shine. But I will say, now that we can use special attacking moves, it's been really fun to use instead of relying on workup, and Lima Beans has been great. Our next Elite Four member is Olivia, and this is how it went. With Green Beans, we get a flinch with Iron Head head, so with another one we knock out Armaldo. Her next Pokemon is Probopass, and after dealing with Sturdy, we use another Earthquake to knock them out. Her next Pokemon is Gigalith, and we use Earthquake doing a little more than half, while they use Bulldoze almost taking us out. Next turn, I thought maybe Ironhead would do more, but nope, and we paid for it by getting hit by another Bulldoze. We sit on Celery while they heal, and with 2 close combats, we knock them out. Her next Pokemon is Cradily, and with another close combat, they go down. Her last Pokemon is Lycanroc, and it turns out we're faster, and we use another close combat, leaving them with red HP, and we get hit with Rock Climb, and I thought for sure we were going down, but we live with 40 HP and use another close combat to win the fight. And that was fun. I felt like a kid again, spamming close combat until they went down. Overall, Celery was a solid Pokemon, and even if I didn't show it, 9 times out of 10, Celery was in the front of our party, taking on any battle we had, as it was the most reliable out of all of our Pokemon. So I'm glad it finally had a time to shine. With that, we can face our last Elite Four member, Molayne, and they go first, setting up spikes while we use Earthquake to one-shot them. His next Pokemon is Metagross, and we use Earthquake again, doing massive damage while they use Hammer Arm, one-shotting us. So we send out Carrot, and with Shadow Ball, we knock him out. His next Pokemon is Bisharp, so we switch into Celery and get hit with Spikes and Night Slash, but it didn't do much, and with a close combat, we knock them out. His next Pokemon is Dugtrio, but they were faster and use Earthquake to knock us out, so we send out Asparagus, and with Quick Claw activating, we use Scald to one-shot them. His last Pokemon is Magnezone, but we stay in and get taken out by a Thunderbolt. So we send out Carrot, and with 2 Shadow Balls, we win the fight. And I honestly think he was the hardest one, as we had an easier time facing everyone else, so that was nice. And even though Green Beans didn't do much in this fight, it did pretty well against Olivia, and even though it hasn't done much with the Elite Four, it's been a really good Pokemon throughout the whole game, and I can confidently say one of my new favorite Pokemon. Now that we beat the Elite Four, we make it to the final floor where there isn't a champion, but to crown one, we have to face our rival How, and this is how it went. It turns out Raichu is faster, and they use Focus Blast that lands to one-shot Green Beans. Oh, I was not expecting that. We send out Red Onion, and we get hit with Psychic that did an insane amount of damage, but we live and use Bug Buzz to one-shot him. His next Pokemon is Flareon, and they use Flare Blitz to knock us out, so we send out Asparagus, and Quick Claw activates, but it didn't matter because they go first anyway with Baby Doll Eyes, lowering our attack. But it doesn't matter as we use Scald, almost taking them down. Quick Claw activates again, but again, it doesn't matter as they heal, but it all works out as we land a crit to one-shot them. His next Pokemon is Tauros, and again for the 3rd time in a row, Quick Claw activates and we land a Scald doing more than half, while they use Double Edge almost taking us out. Next turn we go down to another one. We send out Celery and they heal again while we use Rock Slide. Since we're slower, they use Double Edge, but we live and use Close Combat to knock them out. His next Pokemon is Primarina, so we use Rock Slide and we get the flinch, so we were able to use another one before going down to a Moonblast. We send out Carrot and use Energy Ball to knock them out, and his next Pokemon is Crabominable, and oh my gosh. His next Pokemon is this ugly crab, and we use 2 Energy Balls to knock him out. His last Pokemon is Noivern, and they use Air Slash while we use Shadow Ball, doing about half, but next turn we go down to a Dragon Pulse. So we send out Lima Beans and use Ice Beam to finish him off, winning the fight, becoming the first ever champion in Alola. Honestly, everyone was really great, but I'd be lying if I said they were great throughout the whole game because they sucked the first half. But I will say Green Beans got unlucky with that Focus Blast, and Asparagus getting 3 Quick Claws in a row but 2 of them didn't matter had me stressing. Asparagus didn't do much, nor did it have that many good moves, but towards the end it helped us a lot, especially with that Necrozma fight. But I will say we did have Endeavor, and I swear if we didn't have it, this probably would have took us a while. If you liked the video and want to see more stuff like this, like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel, as these videos can take a while to do. With that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time, see ya.